Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in finding peace with food, overcoming disordered eating. Thank you so much for listening today. So today I want to talk about 5 ways to get the most out of therapy. And this can be applied to eating disorder therapy or any other type of therapy that you're having. So therapy has the potential to transform your life in immeasurable ways, and it can offer a wonderful container for much change and personal growth. Now, your therapist's competency and skills are hugely important as a part of this process, okay? But therapy is not a passive process. You can really influence your experience and outcomes greatly. And by taking responsibility and being an active participant in the journey, you have so much to gain. So I'm going to share some thoughts about how to squeeze the maximum juice and value from your therapy experience. And I think this is kind of quite an important episode. So I think today, for many of us, in the age of information, we are always absorbing stuff so much all the time. Like you can Google how to do anything at any point, and we have numerous articles, bits of information available to us. But often we Google something, we read it, we don't really implement it. We just then Google something else. And we keep kind of like reading more and more information, but actually not taking the action. So I really want to get into how you can really be an active participant and get so much out of therapy, because otherwise it may be a bit of an underwhelming experience for you. So number 1, the therapy relationship. So research demonstrates that the therapy relationship, so the connection between therapist and client, is the vital component for change. Now, this is the most important factor. It is more relevant than the therapist's qualifications, credentials, the number of research papers, and the number of certificates on their wall. Now, not that these things aren't important. You wish to be seeing a qualified therapist who's practicing ethically and professionally and who knows what they're doing. But good therapy should provide a safe and confidential space where you can begin to express your feelings, be vulnerable, and share in a way that you may have not done before. So this is where the relationship is so crucial, because you need to feel safe with the person in front of you, feel that you can actually have the potential to open up, to begin to be vulnerable, and you feel that this is the right person to support you. But how to find the right therapist? It can be a minefield to work out the most useful support. And often you won't really know if you connect with a therapist until you've met them and then noticed how it feels to be in their presence. So when you're sitting with the person or you're in their company across the Zoom screen, consider if this is someone that you could feel safe with, and trust your body and try not to overthink it. Okay, so often when we feel safe with someone, it's more like an inner feeling of peace and just feeling that we can bring more of ourselves to the table. Okay, if we're feeling, I really feel a big pressure to please this person, or I'm feeling a bit unsafe in my body, you may need to listen to that. And I understand as well, for many of us, if you have been through trauma, if you have difficulty trusting people, it might be extremely challenging to trust any therapist to begin with. But I guess hopefully you can get a bit of a sense from a meeting whether this could be someone that in time you could maybe open up to more. So if you're new to therapy, you may feel extremely uncomfortable at the thought of being vulnerable with any therapist, full stop. And this is understandable. Therapy can feel very exposing and unfamiliar to begin with. But nowadays, most therapists will offer an initial free discovery session where you have a chance to test out the experience. This is a time to meet your potential therapist and to ask questions about their approach. And you can think about the type of therapy that might suit you best. So you can think as well about how you like to work through things. So if you're someone who likes to talk, reflect, and come to awareness yourself, maybe you're pretty good at talking, and actually for you, saying things out loud, you can often work through things yourself with the support of someone in the background. So if you are someone who's quite insightful, quite psychological, who really likes talking aloud a lot, maybe something like humanistic or psychodynamic therapy might work better for you, because in both of these therapies, they're slightly different. In humanistic, the therapist is going to be often much more person-centered, so very kind of warm, empathetic, congruent, being very with you in that present moment. That can be a really, really beneficial therapy, and allowing you to really take the therapy in the direction that you would like to take it in, the things that you want to talk about. Again, that's very similar with psychodynamic in the fact that you get the freedom to talk, to free associate. But in psychodynamic therapy, the therapist is more behind a blank screen, which means they reveal less of themselves, and they may say less as well, and they may come across in not such a warm way. Not that they would be cold, but they're very much more neutral. But again, you can probably look up some videos online a bit more about these different types of therapy. But if you're wanting someone to be much more directive and guiding you through psychoeducation, giving you lots of tools, etc., you may wish to have a more directive therapy, things like cognitive behaviour therapy or dialectical behaviour therapy. So this is much more where there's a structure to the therapy. The therapist is much more in the kind of teacher/therapist role. They will be guiding you. They'll be more directive. You'll have kind of homework tasks, and there'll be less time to just sort of free associate and bring whatever you want to talk about. Now, again, many therapists are integrative, like myself, and will offer a combined approach of the different types of therapy. So giving you time more to do that free association and to reflect on things, and maybe as well offering more tools and things. And, so it's really variable. And I think the important thing is to shop around, meet with several therapists before you make your decision. And you'll then start to get a bit of a sense, ask lots of questions. And it's really okay to come to therapy feeling quite ambivalent about change. It's okay to feel scared, vulnerability, and talking about feelings. But effective therapy will provide a safe, non-judgmental space where you can begin to bring all the parts of yourself to the experience, okay? And that can be a wonderful thing, because often in life, there are very few places where we can feel that we can really show up and completely be ourselves. And I guess your relationship with your therapist really opens a door to what is possible with relationships outside the therapy room. When you can start to build a relationship of trust with your therapist, where you can begin to bring all parts of yourself in an environment that is very non-judgmental and accepting. This gives you some confidence and trust to be able to do this elsewhere in your life. Okay, so that was number one. Number two, be an active participant. So being an active participant in therapy means being involved in the process. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean lots of doing and mastering skills, although sometimes it can mean this. But for many of us, sometimes the extraordinarily challenging work is learning more to be in the present moment, because often we're always trying to escape reality in various ways because of living as a human on planet Earth. It is quite hard. So being an active participant means turning up and being open to exploration. And it's often a gentle surrender to the journey of therapy. And again, as and when you're ready for this, to explore your past, your patterns, your behaviours, your pain, your self-awareness, your feelings. And this can be experienced in gradual and incremental steps, paced by your therapist. You don't have to dive in the deep end head first. You can do it a bit at a time. And I think that's what people are often worried about. They think, oh my goodness, if I go into therapy, am I going to unearth some awful, terrible thing, and then it's going to completely overwhelm me, and I'm going to just feel so much worse, and etc., etc., etc. But actually, your therapist will guide and pace the therapy so you can, look at things bit by bit, rather than actually having to, be overwhelmed and deal with everything in one go. And sometimes therapy might feel a bit overwhelming and a bit scary and really difficult. But actually, again, if you're doing things gradually, you will have time to sort of adjust. And if you are beginning to get in touch with difficult feelings that maybe have been buried for a long time, it can be really, really valuable healing work to actually start to feel some of these feelings, get in touch with yourself much more, and to sort of almost incorporate all the different parts of yourself, because often we put on a mask to cope and survive in the world. And sometimes it's just not the right time for therapy. So maybe your life is saturated enough already and there's no breathing space for self-reflection. So I think timing of therapy is important. And it's helpful to come to therapy when you are feeling part ready, at least, to begin the work. We're usually always a bit ambivalent about change. And you want to be there for you, not for your partner, parent, or friend. And the therapy process doesn't tend to be linear and straightforward, how we wish it was. And it's not usually a practical tick box exercise where skills are mastered week by week. It's often rocky and turbulent with twists and turns, and sometimes it feels like one step forward and 2 steps back. This is normal. But therapy should work for you personally, and you can ask for regular reviews with your therapist if you find this helpful, and you can feedback your thoughts to your therapist if something is working or not. And therapists may be intuitive and attuned to you, but are not mind readers, and your reflections are invaluable in the process. So if something's not working, it's really important just to say it. Because again, therapists on the whole should be able to respond to that in a very compassionate, kind way, and they will listen to you, and you can talk about it in that kind of safe, open way. Number 3, show up and do your homework. Now this may sound obvious, but therapy is sadly not a passive, magical process that infiltrates and changes you with its magic dust. If you regularly cancel or miss sessions, you will lose momentum and opportunities for growth. But be compassionate with yourself. If you're not prioritising therapy right now, maybe it's just not the right time, and you can always commence it later. But also be mindful that the right time may never come if life is spinning so fast. But you do deserve to carve out time for yourself. Your therapist may give you specific homework or mini challenges or thoughts to ponder between sessions. So sink your teeth into this process and take responsibility for change. Read around topics, do the psychoeducation, and practice new ways of being. And journal on the thoughts that spring from the therapy sessions. And if you do this, your personal growth will accelerate beyond comprehension. Now, really, this is something that took me a long time to understand in my own personal growth journey. I think I was always looking outside for someone to tell me the magic thing to do or give me the skill or the trick or something. But actually, when I realised that what I needed to do was start going inward, to start listening to my own inner voice, to kind of journal on things, to kind of speak things out loud, to reflect on things, to just explore things in more detail, my growth really accelerated. And of course, therapy was very supportive in that process because it kind of guided and prompted me in the direction that I needed to be going in. But actually, that inner work that I was taking responsibility for really helped accelerate my growth. So again, I would just say to you, you have so much wisdom within you, and sometimes it's just taking the time to slow down, take a bit of time and carve out that self-reflection time, because actually, once you start to strengthen that self-trust muscle, once you start to tune much more into your own thoughts and feelings, you can really understand yourself so much better, and it can really accelerate change. Okay. Number 4, an open dialogue with your therapist. Now, there's no absolute right or wrong way to do therapy. Your therapist will explain their ways of working, and this means that you're prepared and informed of the potential journey ahead and to consider if this works for you. So you can request more direction and homework, maybe less direction and more time to reflect, a focus on symptom management, a focus on deeper issues, an opportunity to talk about topics you may consider outside of the therapy remit. I know sometimes in eating disorder therapy, people say to me, is it okay if I don't talk about the food or body image? And I say, yes, of course, because actually food and body image is often the surface issue, actually. Everything else that's going on around it is often, and underneath it is actually really, really important. So I guess what's important here is, it depends on the type of therapy you're having and how much flexibility there may be around this, but your therapist can respond with their own boundaries and constraints. So if they cannot meet your request, they can tell you this. And ultimately, you should be able to trust your therapist to guide and weave you along the path that is most useful for you. And this is your journey too, so be an active participant. And number 5, your own notes and reflections. So create a file of notes to save any handouts and psychoeducation that you receive during therapy, and save your own personal writing and reflections made on the duration. This brings the opportunity to reflect on and appreciate your little victories and achievements. And you then have everything in one place if you do need to go back and refresh helpful tools during difficult times. Now, I love journaling and kind of really doing deep dives into where I'm at and thinking about my goals and how I'm feeling about things and what I'm working on. And it is wonderful to be able to look back and see, like, where was I this time a year ago? Where was I 2 years ago? Where was I 3 years ago? And I love being able to see that actually I am slowly chipping away, changing and growing. And that is very, very encouraging, because sometimes at the time it doesn't feel like that. And it feels like still in the same old patterns, swimming through the swamp. And am I ever going to, get to this place of self-actualization that I'm really, really desiring? But we're all on an ongoing journey. But actually, when we really can reflect, look back, see where we were, go back over old things that were really, really helpful, remind ourselves, really embed the tools, so helpful. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. And if you'd like to share anything that's really helped you in therapy, do let me know. I would love to hear. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out, the eating disorder therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. And if you enjoy this podcast, I'll be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.